Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or you like today's video, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and to make sure you never miss another upload from me. For the first time ever, I feel like I have to admit that I am struggling. I don't really know where or how to start this video. Like, there's no cute or quirky way to talk about the things we're going to be talking about. And this is coming from a video that I just did 2 weeks ago, where I was talking about the unfortunate passing of a 29-year-old named Cass. Within her content was a door, and once that door was open, it led me to one of the darkest recesses of the internet that I have ever found myself on, admittedly. Even sitting down to film, I'm not fully convinced that I want to walk through that door. I am more so feeling pulled through the door because there are things that have happened that I uncovered while I was researching Cass, and I feel like they are things that need to be talked about, specifically around the communities that we talk about on the channel. But before I get too far, I'm going to pause to preface this video by saying that I'm going to be using more protective language than I normally do throughout the video, and everything that I'm discussing is my subjective opinion based on very public allegations using material produced for the public and also public court documents, all of which are covered by fair use and the First Amendment. I am also going to pause here for a second to let you all know a content warning. This video is going to contain discussion about very serious topics such as SA, grooming, and manipulation. If you are not in a headspace to talk about any of those things today, please go ahead and click out of today's video. There are plenty of other videos on the channel that are much more lighthearted. Go and watch one of those. Those also support me, and then we will catch you back here next week. Okay, with that said, I want to go ahead and start today's video with a little mind exercise, okay? I want each of you to close your eyes, and I want you to envision, for me, the most body positive space you can. A space where fatness is queen. A place marketed as safe and non-judgmental. A space where plus-size women get together and celebrate their bodies by hosting pool parties in bikinis, playing games, and watching movies. They even host TikTok live streams where they help other women learn to love their bodies and be confident in the skin they're in. Can you picture it? Now I want you to picture who would host such a gathering. Could it be Virgie Tovar? She sells classes. No? Oh, what about Lizzo? She loves her body. No? What about Carissa over at Fat Girl Flow? She sells fat camp classes complete with nude calendars. Close, but also no. Would it surprise you to learn that this place is run not by a woman at all, but by a singular German man named Stefan? Stefan is a software developer or engineer, and he is the creator of a community known online as Pearadise. This online community includes a Facebook page, Discord server, and TikTok account marketed as a safe space for plus-size women. The Pearadise TikTok was launched in 2020, and since its launch, Stefan has worked hard to build his online persona as that of an ally and an advocate for body positivity, fat acceptance, and fat liberation. He promotes loving and embracing all bodies and projects inclusivity, going as far as to make sure every space in his home can accommodate his plus-size friends. He also promotes himself as an ethical leader who advocates for personal growth, often expressing how he has helped others by caring for their well-being or showing them their true potential. Despite this loving, caring, genuine person persona he puts on, in my opinion, this man is a walking, talking red flag. And I felt that in the core of my soul the moment that I saw his face in Cass's content. And what I found when I started to dig into him and his so-called safe community was not a caring and loving person, but rather, in my opinion, someone who is controlling and manipulative, and who used his wealth and power to lure vulnerable women into his house, where he can then prey on them, and then he follows that and keeps them quiet by intimidating them and ultimately retaliating when they speak up. The first and most obvious red flag to me was the overuse of social media buzzwords in their marketing. So think words like safe space, body positivity, bully-free, and judgment-free zone. These words and phrases are being used in marketing to target a very specific audience, right? Who would these words appeal to? Well, in my opinion, they're appealing to people who feel like they've been bullied or belittled for the way they look or the size of their body. It's also clear that they're targeting plus-size women, but they're targeting them in a way where you can tell that these are women who may have followed or brushed up against or read some of the rhetoric coming out of the body positive, fat liberation, and fat acceptance spaces as they exist right now online. They're using the same kind of vocabulary to appeal to those women. Now, when I say that Stefan is targeting vulnerable women, I don't necessarily mean vulnerability as weakness. I don't think that these women are weak. I know that was a concern of a few of them who have spoken out. Rather, I believe that Stefan has an understanding that when people are going through things that make them feel vulnerable, they're often also feeling confused or overwhelmed. And I want you to think about a time in your life where you felt super vulnerable and overwhelmed. What was the first thing you did? For me, it's to seek out community. And I think that that's true for many people. And what Stefan has done is created a community where people go to share their vulnerabilities. And those women's personal struggles, in my opinion, become his gain. And how do we know this? Well, if you think about it, when a community is run almost exclusively online, that means that much of the communication that's taking place is public or is likely to become public as people share screenshots and direct messages and things of that nature. So with that being said, of course, there are TikToks, archived live streams, screenshots from Discord and direct messages that are now publicly available for people to see. And within those documents, it becomes clear that many of the people who have participated in this community, either online or in person, have dealt with some sort of vulnerability or trauma. It's been said by several sources that multiple women who have stayed in the Pearadise house have dealt with previous SA.
The problem is SA, and I'm not even going to use the word here, SA is extremely serious. And right now, right here at my house, I have multiple people that have gone through it.
At least one woman dealt with a terrible, toxic relationship.
So I can say that, it's free speech. Sabi's boyfriend posted her naked pictures and videos on a public site. I've seen it. Yep. I have the recording. I still have the screenshots of it. So it's true. I can absolutely say that. Her boyfriend cheated on her, and she came in the chat and confided to all of us and cried in the chat to all of us. I can say that because I saw it with my own eyes.
And many of the women have also expressed on their own platforms that they have dealt with mental health issues such as anxiety or depression.
I have been struggling with my anxiety and my depression and battling feelings that I hate myself and I feel like I'm not good enough.
It appears to me, based on a pattern of behavior, that when people are going through these things and they're seeking out community, Pearadise was their community of choice. It was their safe, trusted community where they were sharing the things that were happening to them or the things that were happening in their lives. Many of the women have shared their experiences where they started to participate in the Discord or the Facebook group, or they would comment on his TikTok. They would get a message from Stefan. They would go back and forth in conversation, and then he would quickly offer to fly them to his house in Las Vegas.
And I originally interacted with him and I was just like, hey, do you have suggestions on places I can go to here in Vegas? Because obviously with everything shut down, I was like, where are all these cool videos where you're taking these road trips to? Because, like, need fun things to do. So that's originally how we started talking. And then he was like, yeah, do you want to meet? And I was like, sure. Like, you want to meet at a coffee shop? And he's like, oh, just come to my house. And I was like, all right.
It's not sketchy at all.
Right? I was like, figured like a coffee shop parking lot, you know? Because obviously the inside's
Like maybe
closed,
a public
but
place where other people can witness our interactions.
Once in his home, several women have alleged that they were touched by Stefan without their consent, that they were living in this toxic, overly sexualized environment where women were being pitted against one another by Stefan and for his approval, but also being manipulated and coerced into doing things that they were uncomfortable with. There was one woman who perfectly encapsulated the way that she felt living in the space with Stefan when she said this.
Well, because it's his house and it's his hotel. No, but that's not how that works, but okay.
Yeah, that's the other dangerous thing. For anyone who's ever considering going to one of his parties or his house or whatever, just be aware that his mentality is if you are there, you are open to him touching you or him wanting to be in your room without your permission, because he doesn't understand that by allowing guests in, there is now like a shift of power. You don't get to just be like, my house, my rules, you do what I want. Especially if you're using it as an open place for a lot of people to come and go.
In 2021, one woman came forward alleging on TikTok that Stefan had touched her without her consent, caressing her stomach and spanking her butt. Her friend shared a similar sentiment as the two had traveled to his home together. Their stories were then picked up by another TikToker who currently goes by Kimmy Ann on her platforms, and then others joined in, adding their negative lived experiences within the Pearadise community. Stefan's response to all of this was to sue the 5 women who were speaking out for defamation and slander, as well as taking to TikTok Live to tell his side of the story. Stefan is adamant that he has never touched anyone in his house without their consent. And in this specific situation with these allegations, he leans heavily into the fact that consent was coming from messages and a message conversation that had been flirty prior to this woman's arrival at his house. But he also published a few things that directly contradict this sentiment, including sending a message that says he never touched anyone after the appropriate message was received. So essentially admitting that he knew he made someone uncomfortable by touching them without their consent, because it was only after they expressed their discomfort with touching that he stopped. It's almost as if he should have just asked before he did it, rather than doing it and waiting for that message to come. He also said this in a live stream.
Did anyone express to you, did anybody express to me that they didn't like you touching them while they were there? No, not really. There was one incident where basically just a little friendly banter was kind of like, it was basically just like, you know what? Meh. I can read signs.
I find this one so interesting. Like, literally, I have notes in all caps on my computer here, because it was so clear to me that the person who is asking this question is trying to lead him, right, They essentially want him to say, no, that never happened. I would never do that. Therefore, all of the claims these victims are making aren't true. They have no grounds. But his response was, no, not really. And I'm going to say this for the people in the back, because I know that Stefan still has a lot of support on these platforms. Not really is not a no. And in my opinion, this is him again saying he is aware that he made someone uncomfortable. Oh, and I don't want to forget, after these allegations came out, he also sent a message saying that he knows he's too touchy-feely sometimes. And as if the messages themselves aren't damning enough, I also found an Instagram post where he expresses that he needs a partner who is in the mood multiple times per day because his love language has always been touch. And if that wasn't enough to convince you that he had done no wrong, he decided to go ahead and release some security camera footage from inside his house. That's right. He's filming them all the time in the common areas like they're on Big Brother. So he decided he should release that to clear his name.
You guys have wanted evidence and Piggy dropped some. This is Stefan submitted evidence. Like, bro, what?
I do feel like I should add here, now that you've seen the footage, that he released this fully expecting to prove his point that these women did not act the way the SA victims should act, which is absolutely disgusting. And I'm gonna be honest here, I did not think it could get worse than this, than him saying they didn't act the way they should have. And then I found clips on his social media, on Pearadise's social media, on their social media where they tagged Pearadise, other women defending this by saying things like this.
I'm a survivor of sex assault. I know what it really is. I know what it's like to be down against your will and have parts of your life destroyed. I would never in my life ever put another human being in that position. I would also never, ever, ever advocate for someone that I feel is capable of doing such things.
And this was interesting to me because, as we heard earlier with all of the other allegations, it was actually said that Stefan in the Pearadise community would pit women against one another or use them to do his dirty work and or coerce and manipulate other women into doing things they did not feel comfortable doing. And we're seeing that happen firsthand here. And within this conversation, something that hasn't been mentioned yet but is pretty important is that he often had women that he was in relationships with serve as the face of his community. And those faces were important because they were responsible for bringing more women into the fold. The woman we just saw defending his behavior, her name is Rita. And Rita is intriguing because she's been around for a very long time. She calls Stefan her chosen family, refers to him as her brother, and she is the one we see most often defending his behavior, going as far as to say that her friend is not capable of SA. But here's why I want to draw attention to Rita.
Rita, if there's anybody that can speak for like the vibes and the place and the party, it's Rita. Rita is in here. She said she's brought hundreds of people here.
Hi, Rita.
That's right. She has helped by serving as the face of the Pearadise community, bringing in hundreds of women by Stefan's own account. And maybe it's true. Maybe they do have a very different relationship because it appears like Rita is similar in age to Stefan, where the rest of the women in this situation tend to be much, much younger. And that's not unusual for Stefan. He has been caught speaking with minors on his platforms. He fully admitted to speaking with a 16-year-old via direct message about her choice to wear a bikini.
I've had a 16-year-old hit me up on TikTok and literally tell me that my content was the reason that she put on a bikini and made a TikTok swimming in a lake.
There are also public screenshots of a Discord comment where a 17-year-old was expressing that maybe she was dumb for being into older men or talking to them when they started talking to her. And Stefan responded and told her that she shouldn't worry about that because they're seeing the maturity in her. Additional screenshots have also come out where a 17-year-old was asking how to get into their Discord. And you can see in these messages Stefan talking about her hips, calling her cute, and asking her how big and tall she is. And once again, on TikTok Live, he admitted to this conversation.
I might have called a 17-year-old cute, but that was in order to hype her up.
And just to be clear, when all of this was happening, Stefan was in his late 40s. Now I'm going to back up for 1 second here to talk more about the women in Pearadise and in Stefan's house being pitted against one another, because there's just so much evidence of this happening, even by Stefan's own account. First, he tells the story of a woman who lived in the house, and he was told to avoid her by the other women because she was stinky and potentially had diseases.
Ever.
And now they're all best friends. Yeah. And you know what the funniest thing is? The funniest thing ever? Ali told me on a recorded phone call how Porky treated her, and now Ali and Porky are this close.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could publish that recording where Ali is slandering Porky and saying like Porky was a pig. She smoked everywhere. She used all the groceries in the house. Didn't contribute. Made the house a mess.
And he says all of this before bragging that one of the other women is the person who kicked this woman out.
The funny thing is that Ali is now going around on that live stream, on Piggy's live stream. She was saying that she disappeared, that she chose to leave. Bullshit. I know. Erica kicked her out and said, like, if you come back to this house, it is on site. Like, literally another girl, not me, another girl said, if you come back here while I'm here, it's going to be a fight.
He also shared a really disturbing story where a woman who was staying in the house had had a few drinks and they were together in the hot tub, and she began flirting with him. And he needed to know if this flirting was real, and also I think he was trying to cover his ass with those security cameras, so he had another woman help him get consent.
Like, I have somebody that sat with me next to me in the hot tub, and Porky was coming on to me. Porky was starting to flirt with me and saying, like, do you want to do blah, 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 blah. And my friend was like, Porky, you had alcohol like 5 hours ago, whatever. Like, it was a long time before. It's because she was drunk in the afternoon, but in the evening, she was fine. She was not drunk. In the court document, she's claiming she was drunk. She was sober because both of us made 3 times. We made sure that she is okay. We said like, hey, are you okay? Can you make decisions? How are you feeling? When was the last time you had a drink? What do you want to do? Are you sure about that? And then my friend said, ask for it. What do you want Stefan to do? Ask for it. Say it in words. So she made her say out loud, take my swim trunks off, or my bottoms, and she made her say, you can touch me, you can do this, and that.
Yeah. And finally, he admits that he was once upon a time flirting too much with one woman in a group chat with multiple women, and those other women went behind his back, created their own texting group, and they decided that they were going to call this other woman out for texting and flirting with Stefan too much. He sells Pearadise as this safe, welcoming community, But as we've seen throughout, I mean, it is anything but that. Throughout this defamation case, Stefan was online trying to defend himself, but also asking other people to step in and defend him, most of which you've already seen. But he was also trying to protect this persona of a genuine, loving, caring person. And what I haven't mentioned up to this point is within that persona, he added in being a good father. And this was an interesting choice to me because at this point, he decided to bring his own children into the mix by including them in live streams and talking about them and making Instagram posts about how good of a father he was, while also talking about his love for who he calls his baby mama. Her name is Cece, so I'm going to call her that, but he solely refers to her as baby mama. But I found that at the same time all of these allegations were coming out, and as Stefan and Cece were making video after video about their love for one another and their amazing family and their amazing children, she was suing him for child support. You cannot make these things up. It's literally a public court case document that exists alongside the defamation documents. It's impossible to miss it. Stefan ultimately lost his defamation lawsuit because despite his repeated claims that he had so much evidence via his security footage and things of that nature, he never proved that these allegations were false. Unfortunately, this loss did not stop him from keeping his Discord, his TikTok, and his Facebook group active. It also did not stop him from trying to silence his dissenters. It is alleged that he has had multiple subreddits, Facebook groups, and even web pages taken down that try to share any information or allegations that have come out since this lawsuit. And with all of that said, I want to make one final point to kind of wrap this up. As I was looking into Stefan and Pearadise, I became curious about what it means to be groomed as an adult. We typically tend to know what it looks like when someone's grooming a child, which is also of concern in this case. But I wanted to know, what does it mean when a person is in their 20s or even their early 30s? And what I found is that there are 6 stages: targeting victims, gaining their trust, fulfilling a need or void, and maintaining control. It's my opinion that Stefan is a groomer based off of these 6 stages. We've seen throughout this video how he uses his online platforms to target his victims using buzzwords like safe space. We've heard how he will message with them to gain their trust before inviting them into his home where he can isolate them from their friends and family. And as we've seen, even though there are other women in his home, he's established control through pitting them against one another and creating inner circles where they must work to get his approval. Once they're in his home, he has control through his security cameras, through the women who defend him, and he uses that control to keep them quiet. Once they leave Pearadise, process, and speak out to warn others, they are often retaliated against or threatened. He sued 5 women. He released nude footage of one victim to a live stream, and he threatens to post security footage that will embarrass them. Alright, that is all I have for you all today. At this point, I am so curious to know what you think. I'm curious to know if any of you had heard of Pearadise or Stefan. This is by no means new. He's been doing this for a while. This defamation lawsuit took place in 2021 and 2022. But the main thing for me is just letting people know he's still active. He is still targeting new women, and he is still bringing them into his house, which means these things are likely still happening. And to make it even worse, because his behavior is already suspicious, and as I mentioned, he's known to retaliate and intimidate, he did mention in another live stream that he was thinking about adding NDAs to this whole thing. So are there women who are afraid to speak out because he's got them in some sort of weird non-disclosure agreement? My brain, I cannot fathom that. And I hope that if there are women trapped in that, they will hopefully talk to a lawyer, because NDAs sometimes are not ironclad, especially when it comes to crimes being committed. I hope that today's video wasn't too dark. I hope you'll share with me how you're feeling in the comment section, because I love reading your opinions. You all always come with such great thoughts. Please share them with me down below. And for all my introvert friends out there who may not feel comfortable leaving their opinion in an internet comment section, I see you, I feel you. Go ahead and leave me some sort of emoji that lets me know how you're feeling after this week's video. Because it was a lot and it was heavy, and honestly, it's disturbing to know that it's still potentially happening. So I'm curious to know how you feel, and you know I love to see those emojis just as much as I love to read those opinions. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me this week. I will see you in the next one. Bye!